Hello and welcome back to the 9th episode of Aussie Footy Show presented by The BJ Show. We are back with Aidan on board once again. Thank you, Aidan, for will be sharing his reviews and what happened over the gather round and all 9 games, 18 teams came to Adelaide for this great festival of football. Well, Aidan and BJ, myself, your host, will share each game separately, what we'll be doing, and as well round 6 for Easter round as well. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Well, we're back for another huge achievement from South Australia. We'll share every game from the first one to the 9th game, all 18 teams finally playing on one weekend, as hopefully this will be a strongest season ever. But this is a massive achievement, and if you have not seen my reviews and thoughts and all that on the exciting announcement, come and go and see it, already out, and surely be a lot of more reviews than ever before in my advice. Let's get straight into it. So if you have not seen my gather round, please check it out. It is the latest episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts. The BJ Show podcast page, and it's also support the Instagram page, the BJ Show _23, with all the latest content and all that. If you have not yet listened to my live page, well, I do apologise, not on my BJ Show podcast Facebook page, it's on my BJ Jarrett. That is where my live streams were for that time. I'll make sure it's better and ever and stronger to set more.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for having me on the program again this week, Ben. Always a pleasure to be here talking some football with you. Let's get straight into the first game of Gather Round, and it was Adelaide Football Club versus the sexy as always Geelong Cats. And Adelaide looked like they had this game very, very early on, up 30 points about halfway through that second quarter before they just fell off and let Geelong come back into it. So Geelong ended the first half down 2 goals. So at half time was Crows 11-6 to Geelong 9-6. And then the second half, Geelong just take over, scoring 9 goals in that second half to end 18-11, 119 to the Crows, 15-10, 100. So still a good effort from the Crows, but again, they do fall off after half time. And this is the thing with the Crows. I think this is why I feel like maybe now we're starting to see the real Crows, and maybe we just start to see them as a team who are probably still maybe a year away from being a real contender. Probably could still slide into that second four and maybe trouble some teams in the finals, but I think from a grand scale, I think they are probably a year away from being a genuine top 4 contender, genuine premiership contender, unless something goes right for them during the mid-year. Geelong, again, this is another week for them. Business is down there at the Cattery, so coming together around, get the win, get back to business as usual down there. It is always been this way at Geelong, and I don't see anything stopping them year in, year out contenders, and this year looking to be another good year for them. So I will give my player of the game for the opening game of Gather Round. Now, there are a lot of players in the Geelong side who played key roles in that second half, but I'm going to go down to Patrick Dangerfield. He only had 88 AFL fantasy, but a crucial 4-goal run performance from him. 16 touches, 9 kicks, 7 handballs, 3 marks, and 4 tackles. So Paddy D still getting it done for the Cat, and as he's needed, moves where he's required and gets some goals on the board. But we will now go straight to the second game, the Friday night game between the Collingwood Magpies and the Sydney Swans, and this one was one that I think was up in the air during the week. Both clubs had strong players out with injury, but I think Sydney's list of injured and unavailables for this game was probably just a little bit higher class than Collingwood, and that's what showed Collingwood winning this one 16-13, 109 to Sydney 12-6, 78. And Collingwood, again, a team who have been a little bit up, a little bit down this year, but a big strong up for them this week against the Swans at Adelaide Oval. And Sydney, I know they've got players out. This could be a year where they might be slipping a little bit due to injury troubles early, so they're going to come back in the second half, I guarantee you that. But just for now, that first half of the Swans could be them in a little bit of danger. My player of the game for Collingwood versus Sydney is going to be Nick Dacos. 136 AFL fantasy, 34 touches, 16 kicks, 18 handballs, 3 marks, and 9 tackles. We now begin Saturday football action, and we go all the way out to Barossa Park, Lyndoch Oval for our first game between North Melbourne and Gold Coast. And this game, it was good for a good quarter, good half, and then Gold Coast showing what they're made of this year, winning this one, North Melbourne 13-11-89 to Gold Coast 21-15 141. So very, very strong second half there from Gold Coast. And again, they're a team who I think are definitely going to be in the mix this year. If they keep up performances like this, North Melbourne probably again just a few years away. Not going to see them do a Hawthorn this year, I think, but still a good effort from them. They were right in the game until about halfway through that third quarter where Gold Coast just took over, and that was writing on the wall for that there. So not really much to be said about North, not really much to be said about Gold Coast. A week in, week out for both of those sides. And my player of the game, I will give it to Matt Rao from Gold Coast. So 1 goal for him, 99 fantasy, 26 touches, 12 kicks, 14 handballs, 1 mark, 7 tackles for Matt Rao. We go to the second game on the Saturday, and it is the first of the Adelaide Oval doubleheader. It's Carlton and it's West Coast. Carlton winning this game in the end, 17-19, 121 to West Coast, 6-14-50. Carlton, even with all their problems, cut above West Coast this week. West Coast are, and I hate to say it, but they are a walking, living, breathing bye. If you get West Coast in the draw, you are in for a very, very good week, because they are not really into their footy at the moment. They never really showed up in this game at all. So quarter by quarter, we'll take this one. So Carlton starting off 3-6 to West Coast 1-3. Second quarter, Carlton go up 4 goals to 7-11. West Coast only had 2 to 3-6. So there's a quarter's difference there already between the scores for the teams. By the second half, Carlton just put the throttle down. They got another 4 goals in the third to West Coast 1 goal, 6. And in the final quarter, they had 6 goals to West Coast 2 goals. So West Coast just not having the legs to stick with these teams at the moment. And Carlton, this is a big win. This is their first win of season 2025 after some shaky performances in the second half to start the year. So big tick for the Blues. West Coast again, just a little head scratching. Just don't know where they're at the moment. My player of the game for this one will be Sam Walsh. 126 AFL fantasy, 3 goals, 37 touches, 13 kicks, 24 handballs, 6 marks, 1 tackle for the Blues. We go into Norwood Oval for what I would consider the game of gather round for 2025. Western Bulldogs versus Brisbane from Norwood Oval. And it was looking to be a dog-eat-dog day for the Western Bulldogs until the midway point of the third quarter, where Brisbane come into the game and they take over and shut the Dogs down from there. From half-time, Brisbane were 4 goals 5 to Doggies, 9 goal 8. And then in the second half, Brisbane go 7 goal, then 7 goal to the Doggies, 2 goal, 3 goal responses. So Brisbane ending up chasing down a 30-point deficit and getting away with a 21-point win. So a big swing there where it swung 51 points back in favour of the Lions. And again, this is the Dogs. This is where I think the Dogs are at. I think they're a team who will be very competitive against the rest of the midfield. They will beat comfortably the bottom 4, the bottom 5, as that's starting to develop already. So we're looking at North, Richmond, West Coast, probably Melbourne, and that's probably that bottom 4. Everyone else is probably in that next 4 and up. But Brisbane, a strong performance for them in the second half. I don't know what Chris Fagan said to them at half time, but they came out and they looked like they were going to win a premiership. If the premiership was on the line, they would have been going to win it, that's for sure. They are a premiership team and they are doing premiership team things. And that's all I ask for. That's all I ever ask for, is the top teams do what top teams do. My player of the game for this one goes to Eric Hipwood. Now, he only had 1 touch in the first half. Then he really turned it on in the second for Brisbane. Only 86 fantasy points, but he kicks 5 goals on 12 touches, 11 kicks, 1 handball, 5 marks, and 2 tackles in a pivotal role to swing the game back in favour of the Brisbane Lions. It is now time to go to the Adelaide Oval once again for the final game on the Saturday gather round schedule. It is Melbourne and Essendon from Adelaide Oval, and it is one of those games where this could have gone either way. Melbourne looking to get back into contention, and Essendon just looking to build on their solid start that they've had already. So a win here for both teams, crucial to their seasons. Final score in this one, Melbourne 8-9-57 to Essendon 15-6-96. Essendon, your winner by 39 points over Melbourne. So I'm not going to really touch too much on Essendon here. I think this is more about Melbourne. This is every time someone plays Melbourne, we see another crack in Melbourne's armour. Another weakness that gets exploited. Essendon had them outside all night. They ran at them. And that's how they took this game away from the Demons. Melbourne, just a team who are looking a little bit sluggish and a little bit out of place to start this year. They're 0-5, and it's not a good start for the Demons. They are, as I said, just looking a little bit out of place and a little sluggish. There's just something going on wrong there. I don't think they're going to be in contention at all this year if this keeps up. Another couple of tough weeks ahead for them. They need to get a couple of wins sooner or it's season over. If not, it is already season over for Melbourne. So my player of the game for this one will be going to Zach Merritt. 37 touches, 15 kicks, 22 handballs, 8 marks, 5 tackles on 134 AFL fantasy. It is now time for some Sunday gather round action, and we start back at Linddock in the Barossa for the Tigers and the Dockers. And this game looks like it should have always been the Dockers, but we will see if Richmond can put up a little bit of a fight. And I think fighting was what was happening more than football for most of this game. There was a little bit of argy-bargy, some players getting suspended here and there in this one, but Fremantle were the team in the end to take the win quite comfortably in the end. Richmond definitely in the game in that first half before the experience and that contending, that team in contention of Fremantle just blowing them out the door in the second half. Richmond only adding 1 goal in that whole second half. So a poor second half for them, but again, a developing team who are going to be in the mix in 3 or 4 years from now. Fremantle, again, they're a team who want to be all in right now, and they're looking like it could be their year this year with Shea Bolton coming in for them, playing against his former side. But it wasn't just about him, it was about the all-round effort from all the Dockers on this day at Linddock. And this is the wins they need to get, these big wins over these lesser sides, because they had dropped a couple early, so they need to start picking up the pace. This is their 3rd win in a row. I mean, they've had West Coast and they've now had Richmond, so they win this one by 61. Richmond score 7-5-47, Fremantle 16-12, 108. And my player of the game is Josh Tracy, 107 AFL fantasy, 6 goal 1, 11 touches, 10 kicks, 1 handball, 8 marks, 3 tackles, and a hit out for the Dockers big man. Now we go back in town, we go back to the lower northeast corner, and we go to Norwood Oval for St Kilda and GWS. This is 2 teams who probably think they're a little bit out of position for where they should be. St Kilda definitely achieving over the top. GWS probably a little bit underachieving based on where they are after that shock loss to Hawthorn in Tasmania, but they are still definitely a team who are in the fight. GWS, the one who take this one, so it's St Kilda going 12-10-82, GWS 16-14, 110. St Kilda starting to just come back down to earth a little bit. Just a loss this week. But I mean, if we say GWS and contenders, and by all means they are, then St Kilda probably are right in the frame. 4 goals, 5 goal loss for them, so not bad considering they're playing a team who are right up the tippy end of the season by most people's standards. And GWS, again, big win for them. 30 points or so to St Kilda is always a good game, especially if we start to see St Kilda as a team who are probably projecting a little higher than we thought they would be in pre-season. So my player of the game for our second game from Norwood Oval will be Lockie Ash from GWS. 113 AFL fantasy, 33 touches, 19 kicks, 14 handballs, 9 marks and 1 tackle. And we'll go to the final game of the gather round for 2025 at Adelaide Oval. It is Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn, and Port Adelaide jumped out the blocks very, very strongly in this one. They were dominant in that first half. They kicked 12 goals to 3 by half time. This game was all she wrote by then. Hawthorn a little bit of a comeback in the second half, but not enough to trouble the Power. The Power still taking this one by a comfortable 30 points in the end. So Power winning this one. Port Adelaide 18-13, 121 to Hawthorn, 14-7, 91. Port Adelaide, if they can keep producing performances like this, they could find themselves back in the mix quite quickly this year. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are quite even in the midfield with a couple of teams at that pointy end. So getting through the midfield is going to be key for Port Adelaide again. But they had a win against one of the pointy end teams in Hawthorn. A very big win, a very strong win. We know there's a little bit of something developing between these two right now after the semi-final last year and now this game. So this could be one of the hot rivalries of definitely the 2020s in the AFL. Hawthorn probably really lackluster start from them. Let Port get away and couldn't get... Well, they got back into the game a little bit, but not enough to wrestle control back in their favour, and in the end, it's a loss. But, this is a high loss for them because this is a team where I think Port Adelaide are going to lose to those other pointy-end teams, so Hawthorn probably a -1 on dropping that game to the Power. So they will have to find a way to improve. They've had a couple of shaky starts. There was the one in Tasmania. That was wind-assisted or wind-affected, as I should say, but this one should have been pretty even at Adelaide Oval by the Power scoring rate. So Hawthorn, they dropped this one. They're going to have a big loss. They've lost one of their key players already for the year who's out for a long time, and will probably only be back for the last couple of games before finals. So Hawthorn's starting to see a couple of injuries come in. I'm starting to realise that maybe last year was probably a little bit lucky with their clean bill of health through that second half of the year. But after that, we'll get to our player of the game for this one, and it will be coming from the Port Adelaide Football Club. Connor Rose, 126 AFL fantasy. 2 goals, 28 touches, 20 kicks, 8 handballs, 7 marks, and 4 tackles. As that is my final player of the game for Gather Round 2025. It will be back hopefully next year, bigger and better than it was this year. The stakes keep getting up with Gather Round. It's a great thing for South Australia. I love it here. It's a great thing for footy, and I hope we can continue the tradition.
So let's get straight into it. And my goodness, what a great way. Finals feeling 50,073 at the Adelaide Oval on the Thursday night. All different from around the Australia, from Western Australia, Queensland, Brisbane and Gold Coast, as well New South Wales, Sydney, and as well Melbourne, all packed the Adelaide of South Australia, over 9 different games. And I'm going to share how many attenders and all that. So yes, we got the Adelaide Crows up against the Geelong Cats at the Adelaide Oval. And what a game this was. Thousands of friends and families were coming to South Australia to watch some games at the Revolta, back at Nord as well, and as well, that's the first time as well at the Adelaide Oval. Hopefully maybe one more oval to make it even more exciting. So I'm going to share by quarter how this game happened to who won it. So here we go. So the first quarter, knowing that Adelaide's come out really well this season, and unfortunately they struggled on a couple of games. Let's find out what happens, who wins this game. We all know what happens, but let's share it right now. Well, the Crows started well and they lead by 5 points. 5-3-33 for 428 Geelong. High scoring, beautiful from the Crows. 6 goals to 5 goals to Cats. 9 goals overall. Big quarter. And there was a few games that will share very soon. Crows by 12 points at the main break. What can happen? Can Adelaide control this lead, or is Geelong just going to be no worries? We're in the game. Let's control this quarter. But it was 4 goals to 3. It was 7 goals overall. Crows by 8 points. 14-10, 94, 13, 8, and 86. 14-10, 94, and 13, 8, 86. Adelaide by 8, as I mentioned. It's pretty close. High scoring. What can happen? Let's find out now. And it's no problem with Geelong. They just came out from nowhere. 5 goals to 1 goal Adelaide. Well done, Geelong. 18-11, 119, defeated 15-10, 100 in front of 50,073 fans. Having Geelong taking a win in the first game of Gather Round 2025. I'm now going to share the Adelaide and Geelong's best player, and it has to go on to Matt Holmes. Absolutely incredible performance. Can't go wrong with this fella. 133, 8 for fantasy, 32 disposals, 6 marks, 7 tackles, 5 clearances, and an incredible whopping 805 metres game, which could be one of the top 5 best players on the field, including a well done on your awesome performance, Matt Holmes from Geelong. We now come to this second game, back still in Adelaide Oval with our big 2 teams in good form, and we had a mighty good decent crowd. We'll share that very shortly. We had Collingwood in Sydney on a big size at the Adelaide Oval with the crowd attendance of 47,649 at the Adelaide Oval. Sydney taking over big win against North Melbourne last round, which Collingwood with the Calm Blues. So knowing that Collingwood and Sydney started, good start, 4 goals each, 4-3-27 for 125, 2-point lead to Collingwood. Yeah, then it was 6 goals to Collingwood and 4 goals to Sydney. Big, lots of goals, 10 goals overall in the second quarter. 10-7, 6-7, Collingwood take 250. So 17 points. It was still close. Sydney had heat to still have really good players out, but they were in that contest, which is really important. Second half, 3 goals to Sydney, 3 goals, and Sydney 2 goals. And the third quarter, Collingwood 30-11-89 to Sydney 10-4-64. 25-point lead to Collingwood, and it was the same thing happened as the third quarter. 3 goals to Collingwood and Sydney 2 goals. Well done on Collingwood's the win. 16-13, 109 to finish Sydney 12-6-78. Well done to Collingwood claiming the win over Sydney. Sydney, good effort. Play well next round. Best player for this game from Collingwood, Sydney have to go towards Ned Long from Collingwood, including 104 8 for fantasy, 29 disposals, 3 marks, 9 tackles, 9 clearances, 515 metres game, and it was a great performance. Well done to Ned Long from Collingwood. Super Saturday afternoon footy, and also one game for Gather Round. Super special football. We have 4 games to share with you all. The first one is the first time in Galloway since they come on board was at the Volta Park, then for the North Melbourne Football Club and Gold Coast Suns Footy Club. Then we head back to Adelaide Oval for Carlton and West Coast. Then we head down to North Oval for Western Bulldogs and Brisbane Lions, and then the final game for Galloway for Super Galloway football. We have Essendon and Melbourne take on at the Adelaide Oval. So now let's head to Volta Park for North Melbourne and Gold Coast with 9,317 attenders to see how this game finished off. Gold Coast started well, and they have started well all season since the 2025-26 season started. So 6 goals to Gold Coast and North Melbourne 3 goals. At the end of the first quarter, 6-1 37 Gold Coast to 3-7 25 North Melbourne. Gold Coast by 12 points to goals. North Melbourne had a good quarter with 4 goals and Gold Coast 3 goals. Half time Gold Coast 9-5 59 North Melbourne 7-9 51 8-point lead to Gold Coast. So North Melbourne were in that game and they have never given up so far. There was Gold Coast with 5 goals in the third quarter. North Melbourne with 2 goals in the third quarter. In the third quarter, Gold Coast 14-10 94 and North Melbourne 11-9 75, reaching out to that 11 extra point to 19 at the end of the third quarter. So it's only 3 goals. Anyone can win this, but North Melbourne has to perform well. But Gold Coast has took over with 7 goals and North Melbourne 2 goals. Well done on your game performance, Gold Coast. 21-15. 21-15 141 defeated North Melbourne 13-11 89. Well done, Gold Coast, on your performance. North Melbourne, good effort. Play well next week. Here we go. Your North Melbourne and Gold Coast best performance. I'm giving it to Matt Rell, including 99 for Fancy, 26 disposals, 1 goal for 7 tackles, 1 mark, 11 clearances, 442 metre game. Back at Adelaide Oval, and we have the second Saturday afternoon football, and we had attended 41,252 fans for Carlton and West Coast. Coming into this game, West Carlton and West Coast have no wins on the board, but one team did that perfectly well, and let's find out right now. Carlton came out 3 goals and West Coast 1 goal. End of the first, 15-point lead to Carlton. 4 goals to Carlton. West Coast 2 goals to make a half time. 7-11 53 Carlton to 3-6 24 West Coast. Carlton led by 29 points. We now headed into the second half with 4 goals to Carlton. West Coast again with the 1 goal. End of the third quarter, 11-15 81 to West Coast for 12-36. 45 points to Carlton lead. And it was another good quarter for Carlton. 6 goals to 2 goals to West Coast. Well done. Big winners for Carlton. They're back in action. They needed first win for the season. Defeated West Coast 121-50. Best player for Carlton in West Coast is George Healer, including 121 A for Fancy, 39 disposals, 8 marks, 1 tackle, 8 clearances, and 440 metres a game. Well done to George Healer from Carlton on your game performance. Moving into North Oval with 9,242 pack at North Oval, and my thoughts, this was our absolute game of the round. One team was heading into a 6-goal win, to the other team just took over that second half. Let's find out now. We head to the Western Bulldogs and Brisbane Lions, taking the next game at North Oval, and the first one out of 2. What a game this was, and now going to share with Brisbane coming out and started well with 3 goals, the Western Bulldogs 2 goals. At the end of the first quarter, Brisbane by 5 points. Second quarter, Western Bulldogs came out absolute from strong quarter, 7 goals to Brisbane, 1 goal. Half time, Western Bulldogs by 33 points. It was still anyone's game to win this. We head into the second half with Brisbane took the 7 goals to, Western Bulldogs 2 goals. It was this time, it was a 6-point lead at 3-quarter time. Western Bulldogs by 6 points, 1 goal. Brisbane with another 7 goals and Western Bulldogs with the 3 goals. Well done to Brisbane. Well done to Brisbane with the big win, 18-10 118, defeated 14-13 97 over the Western Bulldogs. Best player for Western Bulldogs and Brisbane is, Shoes McClinkage from Brisbane, included 111 for A4 Fancy, 32 disposals, 3 marks, 6 tackles, 6 clearances, and 489 metres game. Well done to the Brisbane star Hugh McClinkage on your great game performance. We finish off at the Adelaide Oval for Saturday night footy for the Gala round, and great attendance of 45,000 39 packed at the Adelaide Oval. What should be a great game to watch. Melbourne and Essendon took the stage, with Essendon started well with 3 goals to Melbourne, 1 goal at the end of the quarter was 2-goal lead to Essendon, 12 points. Essendon came out with 4 goals to Melbourne, won again, 1 goal. Well, it was half time, 29-point lead to Essendon, 7-4-46, and Melbourne 2-5-17. We come to the second half, and Melbourne had a big quarter, but it wasn't enough to win the game. It was 5 goals to 3 goals to Essendon. End of the third quarter, 10-5-65 to Melbourne, 7-7-49. 16 points, anyone can lead this game. Essendon just took control, 5 goals to make it 15-6-96. Defeated Melbourne was that only 1 goal, and that not the great quarter, but they go to 8-9-57. Well done Essendon with a huge win at the Adelaide Oval, and defeated Melbourne. Heads up, play well next round. Best player for Melbourne and Essendon is, well, Sam Durham from Essendon. Includes 99th AFL Fan City, 28 disposals, 6 marks, 5 tackles, 4 clearances, and a whipping 453 metres game. Well done on your awesome game performance from the star of Sam Durham from Essendon Bombs. We now come to the final day, and what an absolute beauty. It was hot all weekend, but we had the best game to last. Let's get straight into it with heading to Sunday afternoon football with the Gala Super Sunday football. We're back at the Bossa for another absolute count of a game, Nord Oval, and finish off with Adelaide Oval. So, what an absolute perfect start. We had Richmond and Fremantle start off at Barossa, and here we go. Both teams start well with 4 goals, and Richmond did start well. With Fremantle lead by 2 points, 4-4-28 and 4-2-26. Fremantle add on 3 goals to go to 7-7-49, and Richmond 2 goals to make it 6-3-39. 10-point lead to Fremantle. Come to the second half, and it was Fremantle add on 6 goals to Richmond, 1 goal again. Not the best for Richmond. They're still adding goals, and they know they're challenging us into this, but they're staying in the contest, and when you start well, you've got to keep trying to stay to the fourth quarter. But end of the third quarter, Fremantle go to 13-8-86 and Richmond 7-3-45. Fremantle 1 goal for the final quarter, which Richmond relations. It was the final quarter, 3 goals and no goals to Richmond. Heads up Richmond, you're doing well. I know it's a long time rebuilding, but you're getting there. But it was 16-12, 108 defeated 7-5-47. Well done, taking a big win for Fremantle over Richmond. And heads up Richmond, just try your best. Before I get into the best player for this game for Richmond and Fremantle was 10,028 at Barossa Park. Here we go. Best player for Richmond and Fremantle is Andrew Bradshaw. Great performance, 123 AFL Fan City, 31 disposals, 2 marks, 10 tackles, 6 clearances, and 517 metres game. Well done again, Andrew Bradshaw from Fremantle on your game performance. 2 games remaining. We head back to Nord Oval for the second time, and we had a decent crowd as well. Let's share that now with 9,235 packed at Nord Oval between GWS and St Kilda. What a game this was. Let's get straight into it. Both teams started well with 4 goals each for the quarter, with GWS by 2 points, 4-3-27 to 4-1-25. St Kilda. St GWS keep 4 goals in St Kilda and 1 goal, make it 8-6-54 GWS to St Kilda, 5-4-34. 20-point lead to GWS. 8 goals were added to GWS and 3 goals added to St Kilda for that quarter. We come to a 50-point lead to GWS at the end of the third quarter, and it was a hard working for St Kilda in the final quarter. 4 goals and no goals to GWS Giants. Well done to GWS. 16-14-110. Defeated 12-10-82. Big winners by 28 points over St Kilda. Before I get into the best, well, let's just set straight into it. The best player for St Kilda and GWS was Tom Green from GWS Giants, including 108 AFL Fan City, 28 disposals, 5 marks, 6 tackles, 9 clearances, and 375 metres game. Well done on your awesome, great performance, Tom Green from GWS Giants. We now come to the game we've been waiting for. The game I went to was included a 47,671 fans packed at the Adelaide Oval for Port Adelaide and Hawthorn take to the final game in the Adelaide Adelaide Oval, and that's what we are. I gotta say, great atmosphere, really entertainment, no problems of what it is. And it was a very different environment to go and watch a Port Adelaide home game. Let's get straight into it because there's so much to cover here on the Aussie Footy Show on the 9th episode. And my goodness, what an absolute beauty. Port Adelaide came out on fire. 6 goals to Hawthorn, 1 goal. Again, 6 goals were added to Port Adelaide and Hawthorn was 2 goals. Half time, Port Adelaide 12-7-79 and Hawthorn 3-2-20. 59-point lead to Port Adelaide. Coming to the second half, big second half for Hawthorn. They did so better with 11 goals total. Let's see what happened. Hawthorn with those 4 goals to Port Adelaide, 2 goals. Was a bit shaky. 47-point now lead to Port Adelaide. So the margin was just keep dropping, but that's not enough. And final quarter, what a big quarter. 7 goals to Hawthorn. Port Adelaide 4 goals. Well done to Port Adelaide taking a big win over Hawthorn in Galloway. Defeated 18-13, 121 and 14-7, 91. Big winners, but I do come to include Colin Rosie is the best from Port Adelaide, include 126 8-foot fantasy, 2 goals, 7 marks, 4 tackles and 546 metres game.
Now we're going to start to have a look at the round 6, the Easter week games of footy, and we start with a real banger at the Gabba. Brisbane and Collingwood. 2 very, very much pointy end teams with Hawthorn falling out. Brisbane taking that top spot. Collingwood in 4th. This one's a tough one to pick. Both these teams very good. I could see both these teams winning it. But just being at the Gabba, I think that we give this one to Brisbane just because they are at home. They are a very strong side up at the Gabba. And all respect to Collingwood, very, very good side. They do trouble. I think they could edge it if things go their way. But I'd say Brisbane probably take this one just by it being at the Gabba. Second game in round 6 is North Melbourne versus Carlton. I think that this one, again, 2 teams who probably are just starting to see who they are for the year. Carlton probably should have this one, and I believe that the boys now, after that big win against West Coast, will be back in play in season 2025. This is a chance for them to put another big score up against a team who are probably a little bit lesser than them. But if North hang in there enough, they might be able to steal this one, but I will still go with Carlton just because they are probably a lot stronger of a side at this time and hopefully have got over their early struggles in that second half. Then we go to another Friday night game. So we've got a double header on Good Friday. One at 2:50 being that North and Carlton game. Then we have a 6 o'clock game, or a 5:40 game should I say, between West Coast and Essendon in Perth. Now, West Coast are a team who are just absolutely lost. They have got no idea what's going on. They're getting beaten and battered by everyone all over the park every single week, and they need to find an identity. They need to rein in their players and start saying we need to stop trying to worry about what the crowd's doing and just focus on our football because that's what's going to get us the wins. Essendon, very, very good team in their own right. I think probably right where they need to be. I don't think they're going to be really a sneaky team for that second 4, but definitely a strong team in that middle of the pack, definitely in that next 4. So they are probably a stronger team than West Coast. So I think Essendon does take this one in Perth just because they are probably a little bit stronger and a little bit more coordinated than West Coast are at this time. Now we go to Easter Saturday and we start with one at the MCG. It is Melbourne and Fremantle. Melbourne are an absolute lost dog at this point. They have got no idea how to fix their struggles, and I can't see them fixing it this week against a very, very strong, very hungry Docker side who are looking to just get back into play after their earliest haps in the early rounds, and they've started doing that well and they're in good form. So I think Fremantle probably comfortably will take this one over Melbourne. I think Melbourne, this is going to be a tough one for them. This could be a tough loss to swallow for them. Fremantle will come out and they will be very, very aggressive and take them all over the park if Melbourne are not careful. So I think this one goes as a strong, strong win to the Dockers, even though they're away in Melbourne for this one. Second game on the Saturday is Adelaide versus GWS from Adelaide Oval. We are at Adelaide Oval for this one, and as much as I think Adelaide will do it, I just don't think they can. I think GWS are proven how strong they can be, and even though the Crows right now are favourites, I just don't know how they're going to hold up against that big sound from the west of the town. So I think GWS sneaky outsiders, but probably favourites on footballing ability and current form. So I think GWS GWS will get over the line. Crows, however, will make it tough for them and stick around as much as they can, as long as they can. Probably this one will be decided in that clutch time, in that last sort of 5 minutes of the last quarter. And then the Saturday night game, we have Richmond and Gold Coast. And Richmond again, after their round 1 win against the Blues, they are a team who have just slid back every week. Those young guys just starting to feel AFL footy for what it's really like instead of being up and about every week. This is now business for them. Gold Coast, very strong side. They're sitting second at the moment, deservedly second, and they are a team who will be definitely taking Richmond to school on Saturday night. I think Gold Coast really have found their niche of football, found how they want to play, and they've got a really good, strong list about it, so they can cover injuries now. The depth has been there for Gold Coast this year, and I said this the last couple of years. If Gold Coast can get their depth, they're going to be dangerous. They've got it now. They are definitely going to be a dangerous team who are in the mix in 2025. So strong win for Gold Coast over Richmond on this one. Now we have our 2 games on Easter Sunday. We're at the SCG, and it's the Sydney Swans versus Port Adelaide. And Sydney will be a strong beat there, and I don't think Port Adelaide's going to be up to muster for it. So Swannies, even with a couple out, I think they're going to just be that much stronger than the Power, and they're going to be at home, and they're going to be very, very hungry for a win after they lost to Collingwood last week in gather round. So Sydney taking this one. Port Adelaide, they had that big win over Hawthorn, but I just can't see Port Adelaide being able to continue that form week in and week out. They're very patchy. We saw the same kind of thing when they beat Richmond earlier in the year. They get that big win, then they come back down to earth. So patchy big wins for them, and then a couple of tough losses. So this is probably another tough loss for the Power based on their season trends and the fact that Sydney are at home at the SCG. Then we have some Sunday night footy. It is from Marvel Stadium, the Doggies and St Kilda, 2 teams who are right in the middle of the pack this year, and I think I'm going to have to give this one to the Doggies. I think a little bit of a stronger list, a little bit of a stronger list. And the way they played against Brisbane at Norwood Oval was very, very compelling. They were in control of that game until they let it slip. St Kilda were always playing from behind against GWS, so probably Doggies probably a little bit more advanced on form as well. St Kilda, though, a very good team. It's Marvel, so realistically it's a neutral site game, but with 2 Victoria sides, it could go either way. But I just feel like at this stage, early on in the week, form's telling me Doggies, and I'm going to have to stick with that. And now we get to our final game of Easter weekend on Easter Monday. It is Geelong and Hawthorn. An absolute ripper of a game. This is both teams very, very close on the betting lines. It's 6th versus 5th, and it's at the MCG. So people say, I reckon Hawthorn could take this one. I reckon Hawthorn. No. I think Geelong are one of those teams, just like Port Adelaide, who just have Hawthorn's number over the last couple of years. And Geelong, for that reason, have got my bet for this one. And, a very, very strong comeback against the Crows in gather round, and Hawthorn sloppy start for them against the Power. Obviously, they are missing Will Day, but they're going to have to start to find ways to win without him. He was a key player for them last year. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it without him against the big sides. So Geelong, I think, is going to be close, but I think Hawthorn missing Will Day is going to be the key factor here, and I'm going to give this one to Geelong, probably in the range of 4 goal to 5 goal. All right, that's it for another round of footy. And Ben, thank you for having me on as always. It's been a pleasure this week to cover gather round and Easter weekend with you. So looking forward to next week, where we have the back end review of the Easter week and the preview for Anzac Round, which is one of my favourite weeks of footy, along with gather round. So for all, that's all I got time for, and I'll see you all next week.
Thank you so much, Aidan, for all your reviews and thoughts for gather round. I know you love that festival football as well. Easter round reviews, predictions, and who you think you chose to win and why and all that. So it's now BJ's time to share all that, and let's get straight into it, nice and smooth. So Thursday, back at the gutter, great to have the Brisbane and Collingwood traditional Easter Thursday, and my goodness, what a game this will be. I'm going towards the Brisbane Lions, the first time, and you're down by 7 goals from half time, and then come from nowhere to win the second half, to control the game. It's just incredible. Collingwood, good win against the Sydney Swans. I think this will be a good traditional contest, but Brisbane for me for this game, and it should be a good contest and good crowd. It's in Brisbane, and that's why I chose that. We got a double header Friday, Good Friday football. We got North Melbourne and Carlton, and then right into Marble Stadium for that one, and then off the stadium for the West Coast and Essendon. We'll start with North Melbourne and Carlton. Well, big win, massive win for Carlton. You never know what can happen with North Melbourne. Look, they did some well against Gold Coast, and just a bit concerned with them in their, they start well, then they just don't want to finish the game fine. They're improving that, and they can show that. So, don't know what's happened with North Melbourne. Can they compete against the struggling Carlton? Of course they can, but can they want to win it? Of course they can. But I think I'm going to go strongly with Carlton. We'll get to that bit. But look, Paul's going back, kicking, but big wins. You know, they got some injuries themselves, Carlton, but I think Carlton got a stronger outfit. I'm going with Carlton. With this game. I think they'll do so well. And yeah, you never know what can happen. I think North Melbourne will win the fight. They'll win the contest. I think that'll be really important for them. They can prove that. But I think Carlton will get this and they'll do just over the line. We get to the double header and now we're here to 5:40 local time in South Australia. And we got the Eagles host the Bombers. And before we start with Essendon, we'll just go West Coast. Look, what's happening to West Coast? They are a traditional West Coast lineup, hard team to play with. I just think they struggle big time and they play teams from, and you know, they've had some really good times during the season. They're in the contest early, but I just think they need to really get together. You know, as a famous football player has said, you do not have to like each other outside of football. But when you're at training and game time, you're there for each other. And that's a really important factor. And unfortunately, I am clearly Essendon on this game. They look really, they have to find a way to contest the infinite. And do like Aidan said, the supporters there to watch the game. You're there, form in front of your support. In front of your home crowd, play well. So I'm going with Essendon, quite comfortable with that one. Easter Super Saturday football. And we got West 3 games on our hands. We'll start with the Melbourne and Fremantle at the MCG. It will be a low scoring. Where is Melbourne right now? And we'll share Fremantle in a moment. But look, Melbourne, they're in the contest, but they're not finishing games. And you can't just bet defense to win games. You know, speed win games. You know, pressure win games. And that's the game of today, in my opinion. But look, you're in front of your Melbourne supporters. I'm clearly going with Fremantle. Look, they gave it all against Essendon and Melbourne, but clearly that was a poor performance in Adelaide Oval. You know, they're pretty good at Adelaide Oval, but didn't do that. But they have a good, strong Melbourne base orders, and yeah, not good enough. Clearly, West Fremantle, strong performance against Richmond, slow start against the Richmond Football Club. You know, Richmond came out well. We'll share them very shortly, but I think Fremantle just look really strong. They're back. They are looking really good. They're playing some great football. They're in good confidence, and I think they'll do well. I'm going with Fremantle on this game. Game of the round, my advice. The Crows and the Giants should be a really good game. We're in Adelaide Oval, and it should be an absolute beauty of a game. And I really think that Adelaide, well, started well, poor skills in the second half. GWS, strong performance against St Kilda down at Nord Oval. Well, I think one of the best ovals in the state in South Australia. And I really think it should be a good contest. Should be a close game. But Adelaide, look, I'd like to tip you and I and same with you. You know, I did that against the Cats. I'm backing you up. Bounce back big time. Perform well in front of your Crows supporters. With GWS, they'll come. They're not great at Adelaide Oval, but they'll be in for a really good contest. It should be a good game. And the only Saturday night football, we're back at Marble Stadium, which Richmond take on Gold Coast. And there's not much to say about these two sides. Richmond on the rebuild. They are improving each week, and they're not finishing games, but I've got to say that they are believing each other. They're staying together, and they're performing great. They perform well in one half, but can't complete all 4 quarters. That's why we're building team does, but they are putting on the score and they are giving it all. I think this one goal in one half, football in the second half against Gold Coast. I think they struggled in the heat, I think, at Barossa Park, but it was a good crowd, 10,000, see the Tigers and the Dockers play at Galloway. But I think Richmond will perform well in front of the Tigers back at home base, not their favourite stadium play over the MCGs, which is their home base ground across from where they train. But Gold Coast will just travel. First time in record. If they do this, it will be the first time in history to be undefeated, and they are looking absolute strong, and they will do really well. So clearly, Richmond, fortunately, I am going with Gold Coast Suns, and they'll perform strong. Well, we come to the double header of Easter Sunday Super Football. We got the Swans in the Power, and look, big wins for the Port Adelaide. I went to that game, and the rival Port Adelaide were in that game, and they never stopped. They really controlled. Poor from look for that. Totally, they're missing their best Will Day midfielder star and you can't rely on real day to perform. You know, you've got 18 on the field, you've got to perform, and they look very disappointing every time Hawthorn went forward. Port Adelaide just made that wall very strong with that, and that's what good teams do. But look, Port Adelaide, big win, but can they do against Sydney? They're looking bits better. They've got their second win for Port Adelaide. I just think they're going to struggle, and I'm backing up Sydney with this one. They'll bounce back against Collingwood. Sydney look okay in the early of this game against Collingwood at the Adelaide Oval in Galloway on Friday Night Football, but in front of their Sydney supporters, I think they'll do really well, and they'll just get over the line by a few points. The Sydney I'm going for this game, and it's the twilight game, prime time, 6:50 Australian Eastern Standard Time in South Australia, scheduled time. It is Western Bulldogs and St Kilda at Marble for the third time this round, and I've got to say this is also going to be an interesting contest. Well, we'll start with St Kilda against Judaeus. I think they had some really good moments, St Kilda, and I really like to tip them. Yeah, look, St Kilda did really well. I think they performed great against Judaeus down at Nord Oval. I think they just looked, Judaeus in good form. They knew what to do, but you know, St Kilda, you never know what can happen. With the Western Bulldogs went flat in that second half against a good team like Brisbane. They're princes for a reason. They're favourites for a reason. They're top four for a reason. And can they do well against improving St Kilda? They look really, really strong. So I'm going for a bit of an upset. I'm going for St Kilda's game. I think it should be a good contest, but you never know what can happen. Yes, Western Bulldogs have lots of good quality players out, and I think St Kilda get the job done for this game. And we go to the final game. If we got the Cats and the Hawks, this is going to be a Prime MC big crowd, 80 to 85,000 in the blue and white and the orange and brown. Hawthorn, we'll start with you first, but the word is awful. You know, their skills were down, not rated to be a good team, and coming into this game now it means nothing. You lost, you improved, bounce back against scary Geelong Cats. And knowing that no one expected this to happen, just rebound. You know how smart you can revive from a big loss. It happens. But Port Adelaide was just a better side on that night. Just do well. Geelong, big win against the Crows. Slow start. They reply in that second half. But it wasn't like a 3-4 goal a half time. It was only a couple goals with Cameron kicking that goal before half time. Cameron from Geelong kicking that winning goal, but I think it's going to be a really close game, but Geelong are my favourites for tipping this game. Should be a good game, should be very close, but yeah, Geelong on this game. Alright, thank you so much for Aidan. Like I mentioned several times, thank you so much for all your reviews and thoughts for Gala round. I know that's your favourite festival round, and I know you will look forward to Anzac round, which will also do reviews and thoughts and how we think about Easter round. Stay tuned for all of that. Should be a beauty of a games, big blockbusters, who's going you think's going to win, etc. So that it's now time to sign out. Thank you so much for this big edition episode 9 Aussie Footy Show, the 7th SANFL episode for all your Easter football eats will be coming soon. My reviews and thoughts restrictions are already out on your wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for your support. Keep listening as well, because there's more exciting content to come right here on the BJ Show, and especially the Aussie Footy Show, the Australian Sport Edition shows yet to come, but it is coming very, very soon. And if you have not missed an episode, just go to the BJ Show podcasts on Facebook and Instagram, the BJ Show _23. There will be more content yet. So stay tuned for that as well, wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify and Apple as well. Alright, thank you all for your support. It means a lot to me. Alright, the BJ Show is out. Peace out. Bye for now. And see you all very soon.